Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Me again, Shannon Fox here, Devoted Patriots 2 channel, and I got some news for you probably haven't heard. Breaking news as of today, we have found out some things that a lot of us already kind of had an idea happen, but now we've actually got some confirmation, some people that are telling the truth about the real statistics. What I'm talking about is the 2020 rigged election. I'm talking about what happened in Fulton County, Georgia, where Ruby Freeman and her daughter pulled the suitcases out from underneath the table that were put in earlier in the morning after they closed the place down for a short time, long enough to stuff ballots all night, run ballots to the machine all night, over and over and over again. But little did they know they were on film. Same thing happened in Detroit, Michigan, and several other places, Maricopa County, and some of it was actually caught on film. And so we have got documented proof, we have got video proof, and we have got computer-generated AI scenarios that say that they cheated. If you just look at the stats, at the statistics, at the probabilities. Plus, anybody that's been paying attention, we see what they did to us in the swing states with the drop boxes and the Zuckerberg money and the 2,000 mules and the whole shenanigans that happened in every swing state, Maricopa County, Arizona, and all over Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Georgia. They tried to do us dirty. Matter of fact, they did do us dirty in 2020. And this is all starting to come out. Harmony Dillon has now weighed in. She is suing several of these states for lack of cooperation over giving up the information that she wants involving voter rolls, because we want to know if illegals voted, if dead people voted, if people voted twice, if you just made up voters. Was there any confirmation that these voters ever received their voter registration in the mail? Some of these things, pretty easy questions to answer if somebody would just give up the information, the logistics, the data. And they're having a problem with that, but we'll get into that here directly. First, let's listen to some of Lindell TV. I thought this was a great breakdown of what is going on involving what they did to us in Georgia and Fulton County alone.
I'd say there's a lot of smoke and probably a huge election rigging fire at the heart of Fulton County. The Trump Justice Department is finally suing corrupt Fulton County, Georgia for access to their 2020 election year records. Ever since 2020, Fulton County has, as you know, because we talked about it over and over, they've resisted calls to hand over the data to investigators, threatening anyone who asks about what was going on or why it's being covered up. Now, this, of course, comes on the heels of a stunning admission by Fulton County election officials that a whopping 315,000 votes were improperly, they've admitted it, improperly counted in the 2020 election. Well, yeah, I'd say there's a lot of smoke and probably a huge election rigging fire.
315,000 votes were improperly counted.
The heart of Fulton County.
It's great news that they're actually not letting it go, and they filed a lawsuit. I mean, this should be the first of many. This should actually be the first of indictments and RICO charges for the actual people who should have faced them for 2020 in Fulton County, which is the Fulton County officials themselves. I was just reading this. This is amazing. The admission that the Fulton County finally admitted, oh yeah, we don't dispute that none of these votes, all the early votes in Fulton County were not signed to and witnessed to and sworn to, which they're required by law. They're admitting that, which is really something. And they went to such lengths to not release this information that they literally invented and what appears to me forged open and closing tapes for tabulators that did not exist during the election. And they were scrambling so much because they were so worried about the investigations, the private investigations going in, showing how rigged and fraudulent the 2020 election was, that they literally invented 10 tabulators and documents for them and claimed that these votes were legitimate. Now, all this time later, they're saying, oh yeah, we didn't sign them. So now they need to be asked, well, what about those 10 tabulators? Because it's quite obvious when you look at all the information that they compiled that Fulton County was screwed in 2020. It was too big to rig in 2020, and they did not have enough votes to make up President Trump's landslide victory in Georgia that year. So you know why the poll tapes aren't signed for early voting for 315,000 votes? Because they literally had to throw it all out and invent new ones because they didn't have enough votes to overcome President Trump's lead. That's what they did here. I'm glad they're kind of still being put on the hot spot, and I'm really pleased to see the DOJ filing a lawsuit to see if they haven't destroyed these records already that are supposed to be sitting in a warehouse in Fulton County. We know, Emerald, you've covered it so often. No security in that warehouse, and so many funny games. Ed Martin already thinks those ballots are destroyed, but we need to get to the bottom of it, and charges need to be filed if they were destroyed. And I think this lawsuit is a great first step.
I agree. I really question.
It started, folks. The Harmy Dillon's investigation into election fraud in several states has been cock-blocked by the states, governors, secretary of states, attorney generals. They're just basically saying, no, we don't want to show you that we hid the evidence of the fraud. And this is the first state to combat it, to be dealing with it, to be dealt with. But no worries, this exact same scenario is going to play out in Illinois and a couple of other states as well if they don't produce the information. Now, there was, I think, 21 states originally that were asked to give over their voter rolls, and of course, originally from the day one, 21 states refused to give over their voter rolls. You know which 21 states that was, folks? Democrat states. And so under threat of court order and things of that nature, some of them have relinquished and decided to give up the information. But at this point, we have still several holding out, and that's going to be dealt with ASAP as well. So Fulton County now admits that 315,000 early ballots were counted without poll workers' signatures in 2020. That's the stink right there, which is exactly what Trump said during his infamous phone call with Brad Raffensperger after the election. Remember, they tried to get Trump behind that phone call? They made a huge deal out of the fact that Trump was trying to find the 15,000, find the 13,000 votes or whatever it was, so where they chopped up and edited the conversation. Y'all remember that phone call? They made a huge deal out of it a few years back. We're going to go ahead and play it. Listen to this. This is Trump and Crooked Rhino Raffensperger letting it happen.
In Fulton, where they dumped ballots, you will find that you have many that aren't even signed, and you have many that are forgeries.
There it is.
Okay? You know that. You know that. You have no doubt about that. And you will be at 11,779 within minutes, because Fulton County is totally corrupt, and so is she totally corrupt.
Stacey Abrams.
They're going around playing you and laughing at you behind your back, Brad. Whether you know it or not, they're laughing at you. And you've taken a state that's a Republican state, and you've made it almost impossible for a Republican to win because of cheating, because they cheated like nobody's ever cheated before.
Trump is saying, Raffensperger, they're playing you. Well, that's not what happened. I don't believe Trump. I believe what happened was Raffensperger was in on the scheme from the get-go. They ensured him that he would keep his seat as long as he kept his mouth shut, and then he would probably got a big fat donation from Dominion, would be my guess.
Before, in Fulton, where they dumped ballots, you will find that you have many that aren't even signed, and you have many that are forgeries. Okay? You know that. You know that. You have no doubt about that. And you will be at 11,779 within minutes, because Fulton County is totally corrupt, and so is she totally corrupt. And they're going around playing you and laughing at you behind your back, Brad. Whether you know it or not, they're laughing at you. And you've taken a state that's a Republican state, and you've made it almost impossible for a Republican to win because of cheating, because they cheated like nobody's ever cheated before. In Fulton, where they dumped ballots, you will find that you have many that aren't even signed, and you have many that are forgeries. Okay? You know that. You know that. You have no doubt.
I just want to play in a loop there for y'all folks, just so everybody got the message. Trump was calling it like it is. Now we have confirmation from Georgia themselves saying, yep. And so I got questions about what about the 18 or 19 lawyers and people involved being electors in Georgia that they tried to throw in prison? Talking about the Sidney Powells and the Giulianis and the John Eastman, Lynn Wood. They come after these people ferociously for questioning the election in Georgia and several other states, but ferociously behind Georgia. There was a Fannie Willis case in Georgia where they were trying to prosecute Trump and all his election denying friends. Giuliani was sued beyond oblivion. So many of them were. Mike Lindell, another one. Did you wonder why they are hiding the voting data in Georgia? Could it be because of the suitcases full of ballots counted when the GOP election watchers were forced out of the room? Middle of the night. Cardboard over the window, pizza boxes over the window. You can see here, I can push.
At 8:22 in the morning. Yeah, I saw 4 suit table. This table, the black one, was placed there by the lady with the blonde braids at about 8:22 a.m. in the morning. So she put that table there.
This lady.
So the same person who's staying behind now, the same person who cleared the place out under the pretense that we're going to stop counting, is the person who put the table there at 8:22 in the morning. Yeah, I saw 4 suitcases come out from underneath the table. Yeah, upper right hand, you see the gentleman in the red. So he just pulled one out.
They're all in on it. All of them. Everybody in the room.
So what are these ballots doing there, separate from all the other ballots? And why are they only counting them whenever the place is cleared out with no witnesses? Is the question. So these machines can process about 3,000 ballots an hour. You have multiple machines there, and they're there for 2 hours. So you do the math. How many ballots went through those machines in those 2 hours when there was no one there to supervise, to be present, consistent with your statutes and rules, to supervise the tabulation? We believe
probably 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, and the election was decided in Georgia by less than 12,000 votes, if I remember correctly, folks. It was only a few thousand votes in every state, like 8, 10, 12,000 votes in every swing state, because they only produced enough votes to make sure they got over the finish line, and that was all they needed. Shitty as it was, that's exactly what they did. They didn't win by a lot in any state because of the fact they were playing catch up from beginning to end, and they did everything they could to hide the whole process. But they've been caught now. They've been called out by several three-lettered agencies, by Trump, by a lot of the media. Investigations are happening. Will these people go to jail? I don't know. I hope so. I hope we put Ruby Freeman, put her ass and take her Medal of Freedom or whatever it was Joe Biden give her and her daughter. You take that away from and throw their ass in jail and have them pay back all the money they were awarded for being election thieves. It really went down like that, folks. More than that, I'm really concerned for the people like Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, Lynn Wood, Jenna Ellis, who flaked out and ended up turning against Trump out of fear of being sued into oblivion by Dominion voting machines, and the State Department breathing down her neck, trying to shut her up because they actually come at all of them like that, and she buckled. If y'all don't know that story, Jenna Ellis was one of the original Trump lawyers as well. But along the way, there's been a lot of people, General Flynn, Mike Lindell, hundreds of people that have done a lot of work to try to investigate and expose the theft of the 2020 election, and a lot of them have had a lot of backlash along the way, including lawsuits, threats of lawsuits, jail time. Tina Peters, there's a prime example right there. Electors that have been accused of God knows what, just for trying to stand up for the state that they believed that the vote shouldn't be signed off on because the state was not run properly. That's all it was, folks. And the weaponization of the government, Biden Justice Department, the Merrick Garland faction of our executive branch at the time really tried to bankrupt, disbar, charge, force to pay, shame them, just tried to ruin these people. Says the 2020 election in Georgia bankrupted, disbarred, charged, and forced to pay $148 million in damages to Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. That was her daughter's name, Shay Moss. Now it is confirmed that the Dems stole the election. Rudy better be made whole. Talking about Rudy Giuliani. Like I said, there's a lot of these folks that ought to be suing. Once we get the confirmation down, and some people start going to jail, and there's been rulings that say, yeah, it was stolen in 22 in this particular state alone. When that happens, lawsuits are going to fly. And when they prove it in one state, it's going to be precedented to where it'll be so much easier to fight to prove it in the other 6 or 7 swing states where they robbed it. But it was more than the 6 or 7 swing states. It was in probably 20 states, if not more. They tried to do it even here in Texas, and it didn't fly. But that's another story. Thank God for Ken Paxton. Says Democratic Governor Brian Kemp on August 15, 2023, responded to President Trump with a Truth Social post about the 2020 election by stating, "Nobody has come forward with evidence of election fraud." He was still in denial at that time. Says on February 18, 2022, 40,000 plus people sworn affidavits detaining that the overthrow of the U.S. government during the November 3rd, 2020 election was hand-delivered to Democrat Governor Brian Kemp. These were people that were addressing their grievances, saying, "We believe our election was stolen." Signed, John Hancock. Says Fulton County Now, "We didn't dispute 315,000 votes lacking poll workers' signatures were counted in 2022. Didn't dispute it? I think you did." Here we go.
You guys want to sign the we're not so we stay we were physically here? We did go up to the third floor, probably. No, I think we should be. I don't think we should go. I'm trying to call. All right, is that everything? Put this back in the box. Any old box, I guess.
Looking in the boxes.
Hey, we're in the governor's office, and they're telling us they want us to take them to Butch Miller, to Jones, and the other one that anybody that it's addressed to is who they want us to deliver the boxes to, but nobody's up on the third floor.
They're looking for poll worker signatures. If there's no signature on the boxes, on any of the paperwork and the front of the ledgers and the invoice sheets in the front of the boxes, they got a problem. There's certain things that have to be done. There's like 3 points of confirmation that have to be done, including his boxes have to be sealed. There's another one. In order for this to be for those votes in that box to be counted. That's just the facts, folks. There's got to be some kind of protocol for that stuff, and in all the swing states, they broke the crap out of the protocol. They just did it their own way, whatever they could to make it work, to make sure that they got the upper hand, and they did. They cheated. But Biden didn't get 20 million more votes than any other president in American history. I can't believe. If you told me that and I knew nothing else about the 2020, I wouldn't believe it. Just so many facts. Without me seeing all the details and doing the research and watching the podcasts and doing a lot of reading and seeing a lot of hearings, if I did none of that, I think I'd still know that something was just wrong with the 2020. Biden was not that popular. I don't believe Trump derangement syndrome was that loud at the time. I just don't. They tried really hard, though, but not 81 million votes Trump derangement syndrome. I don't believe it. All right, now we got a couple of things here that give a little bit of a resolution to what's going on. Yeah, we know they stole the election. We've talked about it many a day here on YouTube back when we were getting censored and shadow banned and strikes for discussing it. But now it seems to be an acceptable conversation, especially when you got people in our government talking about it, like the official office of the Assistant Attorney General, Harmy Dillon. This here is Harmy Dillon discussing what is going to happen next.
Hi, I'm here with an important update on our election integrity litigation here in the Civil Rights Division at the DOJ. Happy to report that, as promised, today we sued 4 additional jurisdictions that have refused to comply with our legal requests under federal election laws, and they include Georgia, the District of Columbia, Illinois, and Wisconsin. We also got voluntary compliance from 3 additional jurisdictions today, bringing the total to 10 states that are voluntarily complying with our requests to share their voter data so that we can help those jurisdictions and all states ensure that only American citizens are voting only one time in our federal elections every election cycle. And rest assured, even as people are getting ready to pack up for Christmas and go visit their family and friends, we are not going to rest here at the DOJ. We're going to continue this work and ensure that we either get compliance from every jurisdiction or, unfortunately, we sue them. So I'm here to make sure that we make our federal elections great again and that every citizen has confidence in them. And that's the commitment of this Department of Justice. Thank you very much. And
Georgia, Washington, D.C., Illinois, and Wisconsin, they have yet to hand over their voter rolls, and because of that, they are being sued by the Assistant Attorney General and the Civil Rights Division of it, which is her department. DOJ will have to do the prosecuting, I'm sure. They'll just hand the case over after it is all compiled into a "let's go lock 'em up, boys" scenario. I've heard on the internet and several different channels that I don't know how much credibility I put in all of these channels, but there's a lot of these channels out here that are like X22 Report and stuff that say things that I can't always confirm. And I ask Grok, and Grok doesn't know, and I try to cipher through what's real, what's not real, what's opinion, what's not. And sometimes I run across these channels that say things and I think, God, I hope that's not coming. I hope that's not the next scenario. And I do wonder about things like if they're going to steal the 2026 election from us, and are they stifling the fact that if you don't put anybody in jail before 2026 elections happen, will half of the Trump supporters not go vote for these senators and congressmen in the midterms because we don't believe anything is ever going to change? Things like this have been put out in the ether a lot lately, and there's also been put out in the ether things like in January, mass indictments for seditious conspiracy are coming for X amount of people, including and not limited to as high up as Barack Obama. And this is all speculation, conspiracy, maybe a little bit of truth in it. Maybe somebody knows a little more than I do about this stuff that's got some actual meat and potatoes proof that any of this stuff is coming. I'd like to report on this stuff because a lot of it just sounds like good reporting, good news, good to know. And I want to report on that stuff, but a lot of it I have no confirmability available, and I don't want to spout crap that I can't swear to is anything more than somebody's manipulation or speculation. I don't want to report on speculation. And so I try not to, and not to mean to get off track here, but I try to go to as reputable sources as I can find, people that I trust their news source. And sometimes there's people that what they say is spot on, but it's early, and so you don't know to believe it or not. And so that's the dilemma we're always left with when we hear a story for the first time. It's you want to wait until you hear other people confirming it, other stations confirming it, other channels confirming it, before you really know, or you do your own research and ask questions to the right AI search engine, and hopefully you get that. But what's going on with these elections? We know what happened. There's no conspiracy speculation involved in all that. I think there is going to be trials, investigations, subpoenas, indictments. Trump is not going to be in that office for 3 more years and just want to talk about the people that stole the 2020 election. Especially if we lose the midterms, he is going to want to hang them high and hold them accountable, so we at least have a chance in 2028. Because if you don't prosecute the people that weaponized the government, stole the elections, and opened the borders for the immigrants, if you don't prosecute those people, they're going to believe it's okay, and we're the problem. So that's all I got to say about that. Let's go ahead and get into what Harmy Dillon says here. She's like a duck on a June bug with Raffensperger and Brian Kemp, the rhinos that allowed the election to be stolen, with Stacey the Tank Abrams.
First, we started by asking for voluntary compliance, and 6 states did voluntarily comply with our data requests and have shared their information with us. Some states are voluntarily, now that the president has lifted a fee that was associated with cleaning their data through the federal SAVE database, some of doing that on their own, and we're helping in coordination with other agencies make sure that they have the data they need to take dead people off the voter rolls, people who are not citizens off the voter rolls, et cetera. I'm close to reaching an agreement, I hope, with 10 states. I've had discussions with a couple of other secretaries of state in my office just this week about whether they're going to comply or whether I'm going to sue them. Georgia has told us they're not going to comply. I'll be suing Georgia in the immediate future. And then I'm in litigation with 18 states in 19 different lawsuits. First, we started by asking for voluntary compliance, and 6 states did voluntarily.
We got about 21 states originally that were asked, give us your, or actually all 50 states were asked, give us your voter rolls. Originally, about 21 said no because they were Democrat run. Since then, more than 10 have complied. We're down to a handful, like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 at this point, that are still bucking the system. And as we speak, Harmy Dillon is not just suing Georgia because she's investigating, because they're investigating, and they need the voting records to investigate the ballots, to investigate all this documented. Should be held for 2 years, 8 months. 2 years, 8 months, I believe it is, 18 months. Information. We're going to find out as they intentionally destroyed a lot of the information, covered it up. But if our government is smart as they think they are, they'll be able to find the trail of destruction and realize who is in on the illegal destroying of the information. And then hopefully somebody will be held accountable. So we got to hope for it, folks. We got to hope for accountability. Now, Jim and Joe Hoff from the Gateway Pundit, one of the places I get a lot of my information from, have been like ducks on a June bug about this 2020 election. They have covered that story more than most news cycles, more than any other news cycle I've ever seen. Let me just say that. And it's not just their stories, as they cover any other journalist in the world, from Rebel News to a podcaster that doesn't have many viewers, that come out with even a drop of proof, even another drop of proof that in this state or that state that shenanigans happened behind the elections. They would air that. They would write articles about that. They would promote that. They would share that. And I just want to say hats off to Jim and Joe Hoff. Joe Hoff goes off in my next video clip about the 2020 election, and this is about a couple-year-old clip, should I say. And it's spot on because it is talking about what is going on in Georgia this week. We knew it then. He fought to expose it then. He was sued. one of the many, like Giuliani and Trump and everybody else that was basically persecuted, prosecuted, sued, and slandered in every possible way for, and even tried to stop their Gateway Pundit publication and broadcast, just like they did Lindell TV and Mike Lindell and his pillows. The left is attacked every time they don't want to have accountability for their actions, and especially with the elections, it was ugly, and the media was in on it, the three-lettered agencies were in on it, the entire system was corrupted in order to steal the election and suppress the will of the people to ask questions about it. That was the crazy part for me. But we're going to fix all that. And how do we fix it? We put people in Minnesota as governor, replaced governors like Tim Walz with people like Mike Lindell, where the elections in the state will be guaranteed to be run properly, come hell or high water, because he will make it so. That'll be his mission in life as governor. And as of today, I believe it is, yesterday, Trump has endorsed Mike Lindell to be Tampon Tim's replacement for governor of the great state of Minnesota. Check it out.
Not happy. And you know who's running for governor? Do we like Mike Lindell? That man suffered. That man suffered. What he went through because he knew the election was rigged. And he did it. He just did it as a citizen. Mike Lindell, I'll tell you what, every time I introduced him, he got the biggest hand. I hope he does great. He deserves to do great. That man suffered. These people.
I think the audio is pretty low on it. Hopefully y'all can hear it on your end, but let me just read it to you. It says, President Trump just says Mike Lindell deserves to be governor of Minnesota to defeat Tim Walz in 2026. He said the 2020 election was so rigged that Mike Lindell fought like hell, and that guy deserves to be governor. He deserves to be governor of Minnesota. He suffered a lot for just trying to expose what happened.
People went after him. They went after his company.
They went after him, his company.
Me too, but at least I knew what I was getting into. He was just a guy that said, geez, this election was so...
He said, I knew what I was getting into when I decided to run and scream out about the 2020 election. He says, Mike Lindell was just a guy with a company and decided to get involved, and it cost him a lot. He suffered a lot behind just having the, I guess you would say, ad-libbing here, the cojones to stand up and speak up and speak out.
So crooked, it was so rigged. He fought like hell. That guy deserves to be governor of Minnesota.
He fought like hell. He deserves to be governor of Minnesota.
He's a great guy, too.
Christian.
But I'm bringing the prices down and not happy. And you know who's running for governor?
I love it. That may be the solution to fix the Somali problem in Minnesota and the immigrant problem and the elections. They can get all that straightened up. They can unwoke some of that place pretty quickly. Minnesota is a pretty woke state. They've got a lot of really broken cities over there. All right, folks, got a couple more clips for you here today. This is Joe Hoff from the Gateway Pundit, one of the biggest advocates out there behind the scenes for spreading the information of what happened in every single state in the country. They reported on every single state shenanigans that happened in Fort Worth and Dallas and Houston and Maricopa County and Polk County, Georgia, Detroit, Michigan, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, so little towns in North Carolina. There were so many, Colorado. There were so many different stories that come out back to back for a couple of years. Every day there was something new to find out about how somebody like Joe Von Hutton Pulitzer figured out the numbers game on how they were fractalizing the numbers in the machines to sway the election in certain places like Maricopa County. Well, we won't get into that, but yeah, there was a lot going on, folks. They tried to steal the election 9 million ways, it seems like, and they did it in every single state, every way they could get away with. And now it's just a matter of holding them accountable because there was people that were taking notes. There's a lot of people that were keeping up and taking notes from the minute they realized it was on to people that have somewhere down the line realized this is too big a story to ignore. So Fulton County now admits that 315,000 early ballots were counted without poll workers' signature. You think Georgia was bad? Georgia's just the tip of the iceberg, says just wait a little longer. Here is a very, very angry Joe Hoff of the Gateway Pundit shredding Christopher Wray for being complacent, piece by piece, over the 2020. I may have showed y'all some of this clip once before. I think I played some of this once before because this is actually a couple of year old clip, but I'm ready to play it again. Let's do it again. Need to be said.
And then we had the creeps, as I write about in my third book on the Steal. The creeps come in and they start covering it up. And no group, well, look at me, FBI, no group was as corrupt as you. Nobody. I'm challenging you, FBI. This is Merrick Garland, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden's FBI and DOJ. Christopher Wray, you guys are liars, and you know it. You covered up for the crimes in 2020. And here's the bomb. I wrote a piece last night at joehoff.com saying, hey, get ready. We're going to drop a bomb on this show today. Here's the bomb. Our FBI is corrupt beyond belief, and they covered up massive crimes across the country, but especially in Georgia. They're complicit with these crimes. How can I say that? Because they came in and they allowed these lies to go forward. They did not investigate. They could not have investigated because the evidence is there. We have the evidence, FBI. We have the evidence of material crimes that were committed in Georgia after the election of 2020. Not only did we have video evidence that Rudy Giuliani released after the election, which from a professional auditor's perspective, I've done 200-300 audits around the world. I've presented to audit committees around the world. I've never seen anything so broken. If I would have walked into an audit committee and said, hey, we've got the evidence, it's right here on video, look at this, they would have said, fire those people right away. Fire them. And anybody who hired them, get rid of them. But our FBI stood up behind them and backed them up. And Joe Biden's giving these people awards. This is outrageous. Not only do we have video evidence, we have much, much more. So if something happens to me by this corrupt FBI, I want people to know we've got the evidence. We've got it. More than just video. We've got the evidence. We've got it. They know it. We've got it. We're going to drop this bomb piece by piece on these animals because we got it. Damn you, FBI, and damn you, DOJ, and damn you, Biden administration, and you criminals who stole this election, and Raffensperger and Kemp, all you guys, damn you for not standing up for the truth. We got the evidence. We got it. It's more than video. The video was enough. We've got more. We want you to know that. We want you to know it. Sit on that, FBI. Sit on that. This is breaking news at Joe Hoff show here on TNTRadio.live.
Conversations like this is what inspired these people to start the Gateway Pundit. They started out just podcasting as on their own, just complaining about what was going on with the systematic upheaval of the people's rights by the government. Kind of started out kind of like Breitbart did and so many others, and grew into the Gateway Pundit. And I have so much respect for both of these brothers. They have dedicated their life for the last several years to getting billions and billions of views, clicks every year on their pages where people like me and you get to share, learn, show, spread, expose this massive amount of information that you're not going to find in too many places. I mean, it's gotten better since Trump's been in there, but over the last 8 years, our media has really went through a crazy upheaval to where it's been hard to find good sources of news that have not already been corrupted by the mainstream media spin or whatever. We've literally had to go to podcasters to find the truth because even Fox News lies at times. But it is what it is. I got one more video for you today, folks, and this one is about 6 or 7 minutes long. This is something Trump said about a month ago, and it is fitting for the entire episode. It is just right on time for what we're talking about here today on the channel. Let me scroll down to it. Let me scroll down. Must not have clicked on it at the time. All right, we'll keep on scrolling down. It's here somewhere. Keep on scrolling. There we go. There it is. If you haven't seen this video, it's worth the watch. Calls out Obama. Calls out the stolen election. Who all was involved. We caught you. Just like Joe Hoff says, we've got the evidence. Here's Trump saying some of the same.
Caught President Obama absolutely cold. Tulsi Gabbard. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but going up all the way going up to 2020 in the election. They tried to rig the election, and they got caught. And there should be very severe consequences for that. You know, when we caught Hillary Clinton, I said, you know what? Let's not go too far here. It's the ex-wife of a president, and I thought it was sort of terrible. And I let her off the hook.
Ex-wife of a pederast.
And I'm very happy I did. But it's time to start, after what they did to me, and whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people. Obama's been caught directly. So people say, oh, you know, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. The papers are signed. The papers came right out of their office. They sent everything to be highly classified. Well, the highly classified's been released. And what they did in 2016 and in 2020 is very criminal. It's criminal at the highest level. So that's really the things you should be talking about. I know nothing about the other, but I think it's appropriate that they do go.
May I ask you about that, Mr. President? Tulsi Gabbard has submitted a criminal referral to the Department of Justice. From your perspective, who should the DOJ target as part of their investigation? What specific figures in the Obama administration?
Well, based on what I read, and I read pretty much what you read, it would be President Obama. He started it. And Biden was there with him, and Comey was there, and Clapper, the whole group was there. Brennan, they were all there in a room. Right here, this was the room. This is much more beautiful than it was then, but that's okay. I have nice pictures up. They came out of the vaults. They were in there for 100 years. This is much more beautiful.
You're getting distracted,
We have the Declaration of Independence now in the room, which wasn't here. I guess people didn't feel too good about putting it here, but I do. But you know what? If you look at those papers, they have them stone cold, and it was President Obama. It wasn't lots of people all over the place. It was them too. But the leader of the gang was President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? And except for the fact that he gets shielded by the press for his entire life, that's the one they look. He's guilty. It's not a question. You know, I like to say, let's give it time. It's there. He's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of.
Treason.
They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election.
Yeah.
They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries. You've seen some pretty rough countries. This man has seen some pretty rough countries, but you've never seen anything like it. And we have all of the documents. And from what Tulsi told me, she's got thousands of additional documents coming.
All the documents.
So President Obama, it was his concept, his idea, but he also got it from crooked Hillary Clinton.
I believe, me personally, I believe Space Force and the CIA, hopefully the good guys at the CIA, have got every internet signal that bounced off of every computer during the 2020 election cycle that proves that, with, if nothing else, that these machines were hooked up and being systematically manipulated from other places, including other nations. I don't have any doubt in my mind that happened. Just like if you type a message and you delete it, it's never gone. It's always up there in the cloud. There's always a way to back your phone up and find it. I believe the same is true with information that goes up in the web, up in the cloud, up in the internet, that bounces from tower to tower, that pings off of satellites. That information doesn't leave. I believe every drop of that information is retrievable, including what happened from November 3rd to November 8th of every election cycle. Every internet signal, I believe, could be tapped and traced and seen how much internet connectivity was going from point A to point B, involving just the voting centers alone. That would tell a story. But enough about that. That's just my theory on how another way they could prove this election was stolen. Not that they need any more proof, but if you prove it with paper, you prove it with the number counts, you prove it that the machines were faulty, you prove that it was hooked to the internet, you prove that people did sideways things to manipulate the outcome, including putting drop boxes and the mail-in ballot scam, where everybody got a mail-in ballot whether they voted or not. Somebody was voting for them. Like I said, 9 ways from Sunday, they did their best to steal the election because they did not want Trump to be a two-termer. And in reality, they bit themselves in the ass, because now we got to see what they're really like in control. I mean, not in control, Nancy Pelosi control of the House control, but Democrats running from president all the way down to both chambers of the House. We've seen what it was like. It was horrific. And thank God Trump came back and won in 2024. We made it too big to rig. And God willing, there will be hell to pay for all these people that have done their best to destroy our country, our presidency, our legacy, the will of the American people, our civil rights, our economy, our sovereignty. So many things have been put into question because of these left-wing lunatics. Our morality, when it comes to them force feeding our kids this crap in the schools and in the books and in the media and even in every direction on the internet, the kids are being twisted. But I won't get into that either. We'll just play this video out, folks, and we'll call it a day. I just want to let everybody know I will be doing a live stream tomorrow about lunchtime, 12, 1, 2, 3 o'clock. I'm not sure. It just depends on when it all comes together, hopefully earlier in the day, around noontime. And you're always welcome to come join. If you hit the notification bell, you'll know when I jump on live, and go out and feed these wonderful homeless people here in Waco that'll be ready to smash on a lunch sack, otherwise known as a Johnny sack or a blessing bag. Hopefully see you there. In the meantime, we'll play this video out and call it a day.
It is a $3 bill. Hillary Clinton and her group, the Democrats, spent $12 million to Christopher Steele to write up a report that was a total fake report. Took 2 years to figure that out, but it came out that it was a total fake report. It was made up fiction. And they used that. Now, the one thing they weren't able to do was and probably the only thing I respect about the press in years is the press refused to write it before the election. They refused to put it in. The Steele report was a disaster. All lies, all fabrication, all admitted, and admitted fraud. She paid $12 million, and the Democrats, for that report to a wise guy named Christopher Steele. He wrote a phony report, and they wanted to get that report in before the election. And I'll tell you what, I talk about all the time, the fake news, how bad it is, but in this case, they wouldn't do it. They saw it, they read it, and they said, we don't believe it. And it was only after, substantially, like a month and a half after the election, that it got printed, and it was a big wisp. It was just like a bang of nothing, because the election had ended. If that report had gotten published by the New York Times or somebody, and I respect the Times for maybe only this, because they're crooked as you can be. They're a terrible paper, a crooked, corrupt paper. But for this one moment, they said, this is bullshit, we can't put this in. And neither could any other paper. Wall Street Journal's a lousy paper, very, very dishonest paper. As you see, I'm suing them for a lot of money because they do things very badly. It's got a nice name, but it's really, in my opinion, it's a terrible paper. And it can be corrupt. But just so you know, they didn't take the Steele report. It was the dossier. Remember the famous dossier? I called it the fake news dossier. The news wouldn't publish it. And I'm amazed. They had 2.5 months. It was finished. 2.5 months. That was supposed to be what was going to happen. And it got published a couple of months after the election. And frankly, nobody cared too much about it. But that was a big thing. No, we caught Hillary Clinton. We caught Barack Hussein Obama. They're the ones. And then you have many, many people under them. Susan Rice. They're all there. The names are all there. And I guess they figured they're going to put this in classified information and nobody will ever see it again, but it doesn't work that way. And it's the most unbelievable thing I think I've ever read. So you ought to take a look at that and stop talking about nonsense, because this is big stuff. Never has a thing like this happened in the history of our country. And by the way, it morphed into the 2020 race. And the 2020 race was rigged, and it was a rigged election. And because it was rigged, we have millions of people in our country. We had inflation. We solved the inflation problem. But millions and millions of people came into our country because of that. And people that shouldn't have been, people from gangs and from jails and from mental institutions, people that we don't want in our country.
They're not sending their best. You know how the rest goes. That's what I got for you today, folks. This was about a month ago. I think Trump had Modi in the Oval Office at the time, and he was talking about stolen elections and just putting it out there in the air that after Tulsi Gabbard's report and things that we know about how the people that were involved in the Russia collusion hoax are the same people that were involved in pretending our election wasn't stolen while they refused to prosecute anybody while they were stealing our election. Yeah, it's all tied together, folks, and it will not be long, and the hammer will drop. I have to believe in my heart in justice. In the name of Jesus, we're going to pray for justice here on this channel. If you're not a Christian, hope for the best. I pray that you find Jesus, but more than that, I hope, or as much as that, I hope when you do find Jesus, you pray for this country and your family and your health and all the things that I know matter to you. Because if these things didn't matter to you, you probably wouldn't be listening to this channel, because that's what we stand for over here on Devoted Patriots too. That's what I got for you today, folks.